Well, welcome once again to the Ahern video podcast. Today I want to further define the independent contractor dilemma. I've been receiving a lot of telephone calls. In fact, I just wrote an article on the independent contractor, and I received a lot of responses. In reference to the independent contractor model, I've stated in numerous newsletters and also in my video podcasts that the IRS and the Department of Labor has been challenging independent contractors. And the 20-point test has been thrown out. And the real test is if that independent contractor works exclusively for one company. In a lot of instances, that independent contractor has been deemed to be an employee. I further went on to say that in the state of Arkansas, it went all the way to the Supreme Court in 2011, the independent contractor was deemed to be employees. Most recently, because of the Arkansas Trucking Association's efforts, there was another landmark decision in which there was a reversal on a particular carrier. I think it was USA. And it was a similar set of circumstances. In that particular case, that independent contractor was deemed to be an independent. Recently, I spoke at the Motor Carriers Conference for the state of Connecticut, and Michael Riley, who was the president, has been the president for 28 years, asked me to speak about the challenges of our industry. And I covered CSA compliance, hours of service, the tremendous driver shortage. We talked about developing exit strategies and successor plans. But what I learned from Mike and his group was that the state of Connecticut was very instrumental in passing a bill recently. And that bill basically states that an independent contractor, under certain circumstances, that hauls primarily for one carrier can still be deemed to be an independent contractor. And there's a House bill number, and if you're interested in it, you can simply send me an email and I'll send it to you. But what this says in the state of Connecticut is just because you exclusively haul for one person, it doesn't mean that you're an employee. And what the state of Connecticut was able to convince their legislature was very simple. Maybe in other businesses, like manufacturing, if a person works specifically just for one company, then they are an employee. But in the trucking industry, this is the way it is. Once that independent contractor buys his or her own tractor, they are an independent. They choose to be an independent. However, when the IRS and the Department of Labor changed their guidelines, they were focusing on one primary issue, and that was where does most of the compensation come from? The point I'm making is that I categorically and historically have stated you need to support your local trucking associations. You need to support the American Trucking Association. You need to take a stance. Every time I write an article about supporting the trucking industry, I receive a lot of positive responses, but I also receive the typical response, well, the trucking company doesn't do anything for me. I spend my money. It's all political, blah, blah, blah. Well, just look at two situations. Look at the state of Arkansas, look at the state of Connecticut, and look what those strong associations are doing to preserve the independent contractor model. I've always said that I believe the independent businessman or woman is the backbone of this country. It's the backbone of the trucking industry. We have a lot of challenges with CSA. We have a lot of challenges with the FMCSA. We have a lot of challenges with hours of service. We have a lot of challenges on finding drivers. The last thing we need to do is have a historic component of our business model eliminated. Now, does that mean that I endorse people that avoid their taxes? Absolutely not. In fact, someone sent me an email saying, so if you're endorsing the independent contractor model, then you're basically saying you're endorsing people that don't pay their tax. And that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, I think every person has the right to determine what they want to do in their profession. If they want to try and be an independent businessman, if one of their sole sources of income is with one particular company, so be it. I don't think we have the right to make that decision. Particularly in the independent contractor, if he or she owns their own tractors or their own trailers, as far as I'm concerned, wherever they decide to take their business, whosever authority they decide to haul under, that's their decision, but they are independent. They do file their taxes. They do file their revenue. And I'm assuming they pay their taxes the way all of us pay our taxes. But the point I'm trying to make is that We complain about issues all the time. We complain about the FMCSA. We complain about hours of service. We complain. What we have to do is learn to work around the issues, but more importantly than that, there is strength in numbers. There is power in knowledge. And if you are in the trucking industry and you're not supporting your local trucking, you're not supporting the ATA because you think it's all political, how do you think these things get challenged? Where do you think the money comes from? It comes from the people that support their associations. Until next time, thank you for attending the podcast.